Hello, everyone. Welcome to the March 29th product group conversation. I'm Scott Williamson, the Chief Product Officer for GitLab, and I'm happy to take questions. Looks like Sid's adding one.
Yeah, I was looking at the growth metrics on slide 11. I was like, we're not really making a dent. Actually, things are getting worse. And then it was like, yes, because we end of availability, bronze and starter, it's making everything harder. And then slide 12 had like a ton of knowledge, really interesting. But maybe discuss, maybe someone can verbalize a bit how it's making it harder. I think that's totally valid, but I think it's interesting. Sorry, Jamie.
Hey, I'm happy to take it. I also see Mike K out there. Mike, do you want to field it?
Yeah, I can jump in there, although I think Sam may understand this the best in terms of the impacts to conversion. But I think generally, and Sam, feel free to jump in here, what we're seeing with the impact there is that we're just still figuring out the impact of the overall baseline metrics that we're trying to drive early. And we are seeing, I think, some impact to conversion. But for like the create and the verify stages, it's not necessarily impacting things as heavily there. I think it's more on the conversion side. So I'll kick it over to Sam for that.
Yeah, so we are seeing an impact on conversion, but the TLDR of it is that trials are 30 days long. So we're only just starting to get our initial cohorts of trials that have expired after EOA now. So our absolute number of upgrades, the last time I checked, I think it was like under 20 post EOA. So we're seeing that conversion rate right around 1%. We anticipate it to come down to 0.5 or 0.6% based off of what we're seeing just with web portal purchases. But it's going to take us another few weeks to just have enough volume to understand where it's really going to land.
And Sam, can you talk a little bit about why? I mean, we did the EOA. Why is conversion dropping?
Yeah, good question, Scott. So what we're historically, we actually saw off the top of my head, I would say like 60% of our transactions were actually to bronze or starter. So when we remove bronze and starter, we're actually going to reduce the overall conversion rate, but we should see an increase in the ASP or the average sale price per transaction because the people that are upgrading are going to be purchasing premium or ultimate. Yeah. And we are seeing that uptick in the average transaction, but we are seeing the reduction in the conversion rate.
That makes sense. And then for create stage adoption, it's been kind of declining gradually, kind of since the end of January. There it shouldn't have an effect, or if anything, a positive effect, or is that not how it works?
Yeah, we don't think that's going to necessarily have an impact on the create usage because that's really in the first 7 days we're looking at that. So what is driving that reduction is we're seeing an increase in namespaces being created because of the onboarding flow and the changes we've made there to drive more group creation. So that is in turn leading to a larger denominator that we use when we calculate that rate. And we may see another dip there because that experiment, I think, is currently still at 50-50. That's driving that. So if that goes to 100, we may see that come down again. But what we are seeing that's good there is the total N, the total number of people engaging with Create is higher than it was previously. So, it's the difference between the rates and the totals.
Thanks.
Great. We good on number one, Sid?
Yep.
Cindy, you have number two.
Sure. So, we've got this great marketing story to tell around being an end-to-end DevOps provider with a single application. I wonder, though, are we doing things that will help us differentiate our product even more there? Because since we do have that full scope, it seems like if we worked across some of the stages and created some kind of net new capabilities, that would really kind of entrench us as the better solution than what the individual point products could provide.
Yeah, Victor, you want to voice over A?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, personally, as we speak, the configure team works on two sets of features, I would say, in this area. One is what you might have heard about, or the GitLab Kubernetes agent. That's actually not a feature in itself, but it's more like a building block for all the connections between the Kubernetes cluster and GitLab. It's so much so that the container security team, I think it was them, added the network security policy support from the very beginning. And personally, I was really surprised, and we expect more such integration. So it's more like, what do we want? What are the workflows we want to support here? We want to support Kubernetes-based workflows and have a really strong integration there. And the agent was built up exactly to provide this foundational layer for every possible integration, and we want to add even more there. The other is just Auto DevOps in itself, where we want to glue together many pieces of GitLab to provide you really nice user flow and many stages to be used at once.
Thank you, Victor. I'll keep going, and then Cindy, you can come back with questions. A couple of examples, I'm not quite done typing them out, but we have a designer, as of fairly recently, focused on the MR experience cross-stage. The MR is this central object that follows code throughout through many stages of the GitLab lifecycle, and if we get that right, and that experience is awesome cross-stage, that's a great demonstration of our single app value. Up until this point, we've had teams sort of trying to do the best they can within their stage to make the MR experience great, but we've, as of recently, assigned a designer to take more of a holistic look at that. The Optimize team also has some really exciting plans for analytics that would cross sort of the whole life cycle and pull things together. Also, DORA 4 metrics are starting to show up in the product, and those can pull together value from multiple stages. So trying wherever we can to not ship our org chart and to think about how to pull that value cross stage and cross group up to the customer's level.
I'll follow up with the go-to-market team. There might be some opportunities to highlight a few of those that really give a different kind of differentiation for us.
Yep, thank you. All right, Anoop, number 3.
All right, the next one is more of a shout out than a question that Configure Now has a non-proxy small. So thank you, team, for doing that.
Awesome. Anoop, number 4.
Yeah, and 4 is along the same lines too. We now have a direction page for deployment, which is great. If one of you wants to, Victor or Kevin or Kenny, you want to just give a quick view of why did we build it and how it helps build cross-stage connections, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll cover that. Thanks, Anoop. I don't see Kevin on the call. Yeah, for me, I'll just voice over. Kevin was the genesis of this, but for me, it makes a lot of sense because previously we have always bundled CI/CD together because we use the same YAML definition and structure for defining your deployment process as what you use for CI. The deployment direction is meant to make a clear distinction between the ops tasks and the CI tasks, which are typically more focused on the inner developer loop portion, and really focus deployment on how do you get something to production and what is production world like. And that also includes things like infrastructure as code, Kubernetes management, our GitOps strategy, but trying to package those together because we're seeing a lot more in the market, other players focused on that kind of like CD tooling, think of like Harness and Argo and others that are very CD focused tools. And we wanted to make sure we had a perspective on what they're doing, how we're competing with them, how our single application includes those same types of capabilities and where our vision is headed there. So I think it just merged a second iteration last week. So really looking for feedback on that document. If people have them, you can jump into the ops section channel and provide it. But yeah, that's kind of where we came up with it from.
Great. Thanks, Kenny. Looking forward to reading that. Other questions?
I saw the experiment to kind of suggest a trial to people who's signing up for the free version, and I think that's great. I think it will work. Are we making? Are we also measuring like how many people might abandon their free sign up because of that?
Sam, is that one you can cover?
Yeah, so that's something that that experiment is still active and we're still monitoring it. We are seeing a drastic uptick in the number of trials started, so it's exceeding from that perspective. And we're also monitoring the conversion rate. So as the trials between the control and the experiment kind of build out over the last few weeks, we'll wait to see how those convert, and we'll understand how each cohort impacts the overall conversion rate, and then also look at the impact on the sign up rate to see where we want to draw our success from. But that's something that we're actively looking at.
Cool, great to hear that. And then a small request, like we have stages per organization, and we have kind of more information in the slides than on the website. Maybe we can embed a few more graphs there, for example, also adding the paid stages per organization. So it's much higher, and I think a much more indicative of people who are really bought into the platform, literally bought into the platform.
I can take that one. I'll work with Keenan on that.
Thanks. For anyone watching the video, I'll briefly share what I mean. I think it's super cool that we're now starting to see like, yeah, people are actually using a whole bunch of stages in GitLab. We are really a single application for the complete DevOps process. So great to see that.
Do you have specific metrics? There's several there. So is it paid stages per organization, maybe both for SaaS and self-managed?
Yeah, that would work. I think a lot of other graphs on that page have like overall and paid. So that would fit into that theme.
Yeah. I think they're calculated differently, so we may need to keep them. So we may not be able to have an overall paid, at least right now. All right, other topics? All right, if not, have a great rest of